309 people. A ship the size of a city block. Gone. No distress call. No wreckage. No bodies. No oil slick. No screams carried on the wind. No lifeboat washed onto a beach. Last week, we chased a ghost through the sky. This week, we go deeper. Beneath the waves. Into warm, blue, deceptive water. Water that does not give its dead back. This is the story of the USS Cyclops. The largest ship the United States Navy has ever lost outside of combat. And no one, not in 100 years, has found her. She was a giant. 542 feet of riveted steel. A Proteus-class collier built to feed coal to the Atlantic Fleet. Twin engines. 24 cargo holds. Massive crane towers running her spine like a metal ribcage, painted navy gray and streaked with rust. Sailors called her ugly. The Navy called her essential. Her captain was Lieutenant Commander George Worley. A strange man. Heavy-set, with a flushed face and watery eyes. Bad-tempered. Known to pace the deck at night in long underwear and a derby hat, muttering in a language no one on board understood. He drank. He ranted. And he had a secret. Worley was not born George Worley. He was born Johann Friedrich Wichmann. In Germany. In 1918, with America at war with the Kaiser, the man commanding one of the Navy's largest ships was a German immigrant with a hidden name. Some on board did not trust him. Some were afraid of him. None of them would live to explain why. March 1918. The world is at war. German U-boats prowl the Atlantic like wolves, hunting beneath the gray winter swells. The Cyclops is in Rio de Janeiro, taking on cargo. Not coal this time. Manganese ore. 10,800 tons of it. Used to harden steel. Used to make weapons. Heavy. Dense. Treacherous if it shifts in the holds. She is overloaded. Her load lines sit deep beneath the waterline, the dark Atlantic lapping at marks that should never be submerged. And one of her two engines is broken. A cracked cylinder. Unrepaired. She can only run at half power, limping along like a wounded animal. On March 4th, she leaves Barbados, bound for Baltimore. 1,500 nautical miles of open ocean ahead. Her route cuts through a region that, decades later, will be given a name. The Bermuda Triangle. Worley does not radio for help. He does not divert. He pushes his crippled, overloaded ship into the Atlantic. And then, the silence begins. She was due in Baltimore on March 13th. She never arrived. There was no SOS. The Cyclops carried a powerful long-range radio. Trained operators on rotating watches. Standard distress procedures drilled into every Navy crew. None of them were used. No mayday. No final transmission. No garbled message punched into the static. Nothing. 306 men were on the crew. 3 civilian passengers had come aboard, including the United States Consul General to Brazil. Diplomats. Officers. Sailors. Sons. Husbands. Fathers. All of them, in a single instant, erased. The ocean did not even leave a footprint. No floating debris. No charred wood. No life rings stamped with her name. No bodies washed ashore in the weeks that followed, on any beach, in any country. No oil rising to the surface. A ship the length of 2 football fields, loaded with 11,000 tons of metal, simply ceased to exist between one sunrise and the next. The Navy launched the largest search of the war. Ships fanned out across the Caribbean. Across the route. Across every island, every reef, every shoal. They searched the beaches of the Bahamas. They searched the coves of Cuba. They searched the open water in widening grids that stretched 1,000 miles. They searched for weeks. They searched for months. They searched for years. They found nothing. Not a single splinter of wood. Not a single oil drum. Not a single body. Mothers wrote to the Navy Department. Wives waited at the docks in Baltimore long after the ship was officially declared lost. Children grew up with photographs of fathers who simply walked off the edge of the world. President Woodrow Wilson said the Disappearance of the Cyclops was one of the most baffling mysteries in the annals of the Navy. The Chief of Naval Operations admitted, plainly, that no one had any idea what had happened. The investigation closed without a cause. Without a clue. Without a grave. Theory 1. She broke apart. The Cyclops was overloaded, dangerously so. Her cargo of manganese ore was nearly twice as dense as her usual coal, concentrated in the lower holds where it acted like a concrete weight. Her hull, designed for lighter loads, sagged under the strain. Engineers later studied her sister ships and found cracks. Stress fractures along the keel. Weak structural beams above the engine room. With one engine dead, she could not maneuver, could not turn into a wave, could not hold a heading in heavy weather. A sudden squall. A rogue wave from the wrong angle. A shift of unsecured cargo. And 11,000 tons of metal would drag her under in less than a minute. Too fast for a radio call. Too violent for survivors. The ocean would close over her like a door slamming shut. But there is a problem. There was no major storm reported on her route. Weather logs from passing vessels describe calm seas, light winds, fair skies. So if the sea took her, it took her quietly. Theory 2. A German U-boat. America was at war. Worley was German-born, fluent in the language of the enemy. Whispers spread, even before her loss was confirmed, that he had sabotaged his own ship. Or surrendered her to the enemy. Or sailed her deliberately into the path of a torpedo. The rumors hardened into accusations in the press. After the war, investigators went straight to the source. They opened the German naval archives in Berlin. Every U-boat patrol. Every kill. Every position log. There was no U-boat operating in that part of the Atlantic in March 1918. No torpedo fired. No attack claimed. The Germans, who had every reason to brag about sinking a Navy collier of that size, recorded nothing. The U-boat theory died in the archives. Theory 3. Something else. Something stranger. The Cyclops vanished inside what would later be called the Bermuda Triangle. And she did not vanish alone. 23 years later, her two sister ships entered the story. The USS Proteus. Built on the same plans, in the same yard, by the same hands. In November 1941, she sailed from the Virgin Islands carrying a heavy cargo of bauxite ore, bound for an East Coast port. She never arrived. No wreckage. No survivors. No distress call. 1 month later, in December 1941, the USS Nereus, the third sister, departed the same Virgin Islands port. Same cargo. Same route. Same destination. She, too, vanished. No debris. No mayday. No bodies. 3 identical ships. 3 identical cargoes. 3 identical routes. 3 identical silences, separated by 23 years and a few hundred nautical miles of open Atlantic. The Navy ruled all 3 losses unexplained. Some blame German subs in the second case, but again, no U-boat ever claimed the kills. Coincidence is a word the ocean does not seem to recognize. Whatever took the Cyclops in 1918 came back. Twice. More than 100 years have passed. The Atlantic has been mapped, scanned, sonared, and dredged. Wrecks far older than the Cyclops have been found. The Titanic, 2.5 miles down. The Bismarck, deep in the North Atlantic. Spanish galleons resting in silt for 400 years. But the Cyclops, the largest ship the United States Navy has ever lost outside of combat, has never been found. Not a hull. Not an anchor. Not a single rivet. 309 names are still carved into the official roll of the missing. Their families never received a body. Never received a flag-draped coffin. Never received an answer. Some held memorial services with empty caskets. Some refused to believe for years, certain their sons or husbands would walk back through the door. Letters were written to the Navy for decades, by widows growing old, by children who became grandparents, asking the same question. What happened? The Navy still has no answer. Just a date. March 1918. And a silence that has lasted longer than most lifetimes. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to The Lost Signal. New disappearances every week. Stories the official record has given up on. Stories the ocean still refuses to tell. Next time, we leave the water. We leave the sky. We step onto solid ground onto a railway platform in 1911 Italy. A train enters a tunnel with 106 passengers on board. It never comes out the other side. No wreckage. No bodies. No explanation. Just silence where a train used to be. Until then, keep listening. The signal is still out there.